Greetings and welcome back to another build guide from Mass Effect Multiplayer Andromeda. Today the build guide is all about the Salarian operator, and I am making it specifically to accompany my very recent solo run, my gold outlaw solo run with the Salarian operator. Now obviously I've played him a fair bit and I've experimented quite a bit. That was kind of the gist of why I went into the solo, because I was just trying different builds out constantly, get lots of respec cards in this version of Mass Effect. And yeah, I really have a lot of fun with it. Quite possibly my favorite kit, one of my favorite kits, I'm not sure. But I like him a lot. And I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to run an Avenger, and I certainly didn't want to use the Vanquisher, which I just think is broken. In any event, the build. Now, first off, guys, obviously this is actually a level 10, a fully spec'd out Salarian operator, and that's obviously hard to get. It's a lot of luck, but rest assured I will describe possibilities for those of you who don't have max build possibilities. Just saying, because a lot of his passes aren't that great, and so you can forego that and pretty much still have an optimal build. But anyway, let's just launch into it, get started here. So support systems, this is obviously, self-explanatory. The tech duration, this is also self-explanatory, for the simple reason that, well, you could do tech radius and say, well, the shield boost would benefit from it, more of your allies would get hit. But the fact of the matter is, or even in the case of invasion, possibly overload. But the problem here is that most of the time you're just running around by yourself, even when you're not soloing. So what's the point? It's better to have the better duration. This will obviously, assuming the mechanics work properly, add to the duration of shield boost. It's continually boosting your shields. It will add significantly to invasion, which is useful, as well as I would assume, the CC from overload. Then we go to support systems for obvious reasons. Well, extra health and shields, you need that. It's just kind of obvious. And of course the plus 30% power restoration defense. Pretty much only for shield boost. This is going to add more power, I would assume, assuming the mechanics are working properly, to shield boost. And whilst this is nice in theory, I mean, how often do you really? I mean, yeah, you revive people, but creating a build around reviving people, I guess that's okay. I don't know. I just think this is more useful for your shield boost. And the reason why I skipped this, and I've tried both of these out, is, well, this is actually not a very useful ability, 6A, anyway. And I'll tell you why. I've had it on the human engineer for quite some time. And whilst it's nice to immediately get your shields back up, if you're in a situation where you're pinned down anyway, you're going to get the shields brought down pretty quickly, regardless. So it's kind of pointless. And the other thing is, Salarian operator has shield boost. So why bother? Why bother with something like this if you have shield boost, which is redundant? So no point. Now you could argue, oh, this is useful, damage, debuff, but this implies that you're going to be specifically focused on an enemy hit with invasion, which you will be in many cases, but 8 seconds, okay, I guess you'd have a little bit longer duration, just maybe it's 10 with some of the passives. It's just too situational. You don't really feel that benefit, so I just skipped it altogether after trying many different things out in this tree. So we just go with the top two. It's most beneficial to the operator, whether you're playing with other people or playing, by yourself. Offensive tech is probably arguably his weakest tree in a lot of ways. The passives of the Salarian operator are just not that great compared to some other passives you find in the game. So the final build that I had for this guy, you're only in spec in the 4. This is obvious. And this is, you don't combo detonations. Yeah, you can create them as you see in the video with overload and some nice disruptor ammo, but this is much better. This will boost however slightly your invasion and however slightly your overload, but more importantly, this is going to give you a plus 20% on power effects. And you combine that with this passive here, so you're getting literally a 50% power effect durations bonuses, which is why when you see it get to invasion, we don't bother with the extra duration. Sorry, with recharge, because you're going to be having it. It's going to last a pretty long time regardless. And here, I mean, the reason why I didn't bother with this is I've tried it. You know, what are you going to use? Overload, lots of armored targets. It doesn't overload, as I'll explain in a bit. It's not a damager. It's a crowd control ability, a useful one, mind you, I think, but it's not a damager. So, and invasion does such a small amount of damage that it's just not relevant. So why really bother with any of this? Now, here's where it gets a little bit more interesting, because, well, you know, just push your way through this and you get here. Well, most weapons you don't really, I mean, you're gonna, it's not even clear if accuracy and bonuses work in the game, and I can't think of a single weapon that actually has real recoil, so what's the point of having weapon stability? This is universally true, not just true for the Salarian operator, but, you know, why, in my humble opinion, why bother? And the extra weight capacity would be nice if you want to, you know, run around with a heavier weapon, but it doesn't justify wasting points, in my opinion, in 5, which does almost nothing. And here I experimented with this for quite a bit. I had theorized, I believe incorrectly, and I'm not 100% sure. I tested it out. I'm 90% sure, but I'm not 100% sure, that you could take this, put somebody under invasion, then use disruptor ammo or any other or cryo ammo or incendiary ammo, and then do more damage to them. This is my thinking, but that doesn't seem to be the way it works. I can't prove it. It's just I've tested, I've noticed differences, or rather lack of differences. So the status effect, what's the point? So presumably the only thing this would actually work for in the operator would be invasion plus overload, and overload does shit damage, so we just skip this. We just stick with 4 upgrades here. This does all the work for you in this case. Moving up the tree, so we're saving points here, and we put it into overload. Now overload, once again, I'll explain why it's not really necessary if you don't have it Salarian operator maxed out, but overload can be useful crowd control. If you're about to get hit, stun them, that's what it's really used for. That's what I used it for. I also use it for crowd control tech explosions. As you can see in the video, those lightning fields. Combining disruptor ammo with overload, that can be really useful. I don't use it for damage. It's pretty pointless, I think, in that regard. So with those extra points, what I do is I want that recharge speed. I want to be able to CC the enemy as often as possible. So this is self-explanatory. And in my opinion, you always want recharge. Whatever, there might be exceptions in the future, but yeah, in this case, you definitely want recharge. This will give you a 30% recharge bonus on overload. And finally, this will allow you to chain one extra target for a little bit of extra CC. But it's mostly about the recharge here. So for example, you could totally forego all of this, follow the build I've presented thus far, skipping the last 2 passives on the second to the bottom tree, as well as the last one on the bottom tree, and you know, you'd be still good to go, depending on what you're even at rank 1. I think you'd be good to go. But yeah, I mean, you don't need to do this. You could, obviously this is kind of icing on the cake, so you could skip this easily, and if you had a couple of ranks, you could probably get here with this, and even this is beneficial without rank 4, so you know. But it's just crowd control. You see I use it pretty often in the video. I'll just use it to stun them. I'll use it to trigger tech explosions. Not because tech explosions are powerful, but because particularly with regard to electricity, you have that electric field that stuns enemies that come into it, which is pretty useful. So pure crowd control, nothing else going on with that. Now shield boost, this is how I would just universally spec shield boost. It's not specific to the operator. This is self-explanatory. Restoration, you want those, the radius, once again, this implies you're going to be shield boosting mostly for your teammates. Yeah, you can do that. But the way people play, they're just all over the map. It just doesn't really work that way. So you want that extra restoration, extra 35% shields per second. Coupled with the passives makes it quite potent. For rank 5, the initial shields restored. Well, it sounds nice. That's great. But, I mean, 30% extra recharge speed combined with this, no, you want the recharge speed. Because this is, you could argue that Invasion is his bread and butter, which, I mean, he is unique so far. Of all the kits, he's the only kit that has Invasion. But, on the other hand, shield boost is just godly. It saves you so many times. It allowed me to solo without too many problems because you're just so tanky. So you want that recharge speed. You want shield boost up as often as possible. And finally, this seems sort of more complicated. Well, your shields will be continually restored. But I would argue in most of the situations you find yourself in, pardon me, you're really only using shield boost to get around corners. You're not, I mean, you're not going to be running marathons where you continuously need restoration. And this boosts the quality, the strength of your shields by 100%, right, for 3 seconds. Now, it says just 3 seconds. However, remember the tech bonus. It's the duration. So it would actually be 4.5 seconds if you count the 50% duration bonuses from the passive. So I think this is just much more useful and much stronger, obviously, for survival purposes. So and I would say this is universal. Just go restoration, recharge speed, and overcharge. Finally, the unique ability on the Salarian operator is Invasion, which is a debuffer. It's brief crowd control on enemies that aren't well, wearing armor, and you can see they kind of struggle a little bit for about a second maybe. That's kind of useful, but that's not the main thing. So obviously self-explanatory. Why I don't bother with recharge speed is the same reason I explained before, because with the passive 50% duration bonus from your passive tech abilities, well, you're going to have it up pretty often, because the enemies who are affected by it are they'll either be dead or they'll still have it up by the time your recharge is ready. In fact, if I recall in the video, as well as some other playthroughs I've done, yeah, I mean, you're just, sometimes you can just re-invade them if you want, because it lasts a pretty long time, considering you have a third. So it's 80% duration. I mean, yeah, I think Outbreak is worth it, although it's not clear how it works exactly. No one's really done the data mining, but subjectively, I think it spreads a lot better, and that's useful because then you have multiple enemies. You can just move from one to the next because it lasts long enough for sure. Same reason for rank 5. We don't take Epidemic because, I mean, sure, it would spread to multiple enemies, but the 10% defense debuff added with the base 35% is just too nice to ignore, I think. Of course, this would be, in theory, pretty amazing. That would be, what, a 90% duration bonus on top of the base duration, which isn't 15 seconds. So it's practically, what, 30 seconds then. But as it stands now, okay, you don't have the extra 40%. It's not too bad. It's about 22.5 seconds. So that's pretty good. Why bother? Debuff is better. Now here we come to some inroads, or some crossroads rather, some questions here. I actually don't think rank 6 is particularly useful either way, which is another piece of good news for those of you who don't have the Salarian operator at 10. Because it's just, I mean, the extra virulence is nice, but it's certainly not essential. And in different builds I was trying out, it didn't really make a difference. It's nice to sort of finish off enemies. It helps a little bit, but the explosion is just pitiful. The damage it does, and you know what it will do for you is in squishier enemies it will guarantee tech kills, giving you more experience because you get tech power kills. That's kind of nice, I guess. And this, I guess it's nice, but you know, once again, are you really going to stand in a straight line in front of the enemy, taking fire from specifically the enemy you've affected? I mean, you could do that, but so I really think this is optional. So if you skip overload, you skip this. This is 6 points saved. This is 3 points saved, 4, 5, 9, 12. You can literally save 20 points on this and still have a pretty optimal build. Or if you have a couple of ranks in it, you can, you know, skip the last evolution of invasion and just take the basic recharge speed and damage here. But either way, you don't need to. In fact, this is why I struggled multiple times coming up with a build, just switching and trying out different things, because the passives are not fantastic, to be honest, even though I have a lot of fun with this guy, and the final evolution of invasion is kind of meh. And overload really is only good for crowd control. Good crowd control, but that's it. As far as weapons are concerned, so, see, in the video, obviously I was using the Valiant, missed a lot of shots, but Equalizer is fantastic for the simple reason that I think it's the best weapon for activating ammo powers. The Hurricane's pretty good too. I didn't use the Hurricane in this video though. And yeah, I use it to activate ammo powers. I usually use Disruptor on this guy for those lightning explosions for crowd control. And the Equalizer does decent damage. You don't really have to worry about running to ammo boxes. And if you want, you can take a Valiant with you, or some sniper, equivalent sniper rifle. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the snipers. Actually, the snipers I do like are kind of underpowered, like the Black Widow. I only have it at 1, but I like the sound. And I do like the Valiant, although I played with the Vanquisher for the first time in a while yesterday, and I think it's just broken. It's crazy. But obviously, if you can figure out how to use it properly, the Thokin is pretty good. The Thokin's good on a lot of characters. I can't really recommend any other assault rifle. I mean, I have most of my assault rifles maxed out, and most are just terrible. So, and the Revenant, assuming accuracy bonuses work properly, he doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have rate of fire, so why bother? Pistols offer you a greater choice. For example, if you want something for long range but can't be bothered with snipers, the Sidewinder is always nice. Scorpion is weird. It has a severe delay. Scorpion actually could be good precisely for soloing. Let's see what we could do. I haven't even bothered with it on his, but look at that damage on a pistol. That's pretty good. And then you put in the pistol magazine. So this could actually be on a solo setup, pretty damn good, in theory, at least. Just because you'd be able to just plant them on, run away, and yeah, no, nothing to see here. Equalizer obviously go to. Hornet doesn't do enough damage, and the Hurricane, yeah, the Hurricane is great. Really, really solid gun overall, and good on pretty much everything. I'd argue a bit overpowered. It's got no weaknesses. It's got good accuracy at a decent range, no recoil, a big clip, good damage, insane rate of fire. You can't really go wrong with a Hurricane. This isn't that great. The build-up, it's kind of a gimmicky weapon. And this is a terrible weapon. I guess it's supposed to be a pale imitation of the Executioner, but you can't one-shot anything with it. So there you go for pistols. In fact, I might try a solo run with the, come to think of it, with the Scorpion, just because you're not worried tremendously about the time, and yeah. So snipers, I mean, yeah, I was using the Valiant, but you know, everyone likes using the Vanquisher, and apart from this thing is I don't know if it's broken, but it's extremely overpowered. The Valiant's nice because it's got fast reload speed and decent rate of fire. Don't really think much of this. This is nice because it's a single shot. I actually like the Black Widow, even though I only have it at 1. And yeah, I mean, this is a weird gimmicky sniper. It's interesting, but not really good for hit and run. And those of you know the Raptor, it's quite good. Finally, of the shotguns, really the only thing I could recommend is the Piranha. Nothing else does it, if I'm perfectly honest. This is really gimmicky. Half the shots miss. Crusaders just doesn't have the damage output it used to. I mean, the Crusader, if it had more damage, could be pretty good. If they up the damage by 30%, but yeah, Piranha is a solid choice. So yeah, that would be weapons. I would just go with pistols for the most part. Different types of pistols. Another, like I said, what I like running, the Hurricane and the Sidewinder sometimes. And as far as equipment's concerned, what we have now, you know, depending on what you run, thermal clip storage. Now, theoretically, guys, if they release new permanent equipment next week, for example, things that boost tech powers, and the tech power damage is less interesting than the efficiency. If they have something that gives you, you know, 10% or even 15% power efficiency, then I will be foregoing this on a lot of kits, this particular thermal clip storage, and just be running the equalizer, because then you don't have to worry about that, and you get some really nice benefits from that. Because power recharges, I mean, that's just the meat and drink of this game, especially for clutch abilities like shield boost. Anyway, that is the Salarian operator. Really one of my favorites, maybe my favorite at the moment. Really enjoy him. People I've noticed complain that he doesn't pack a punch. I suppose. But mind you, people have said, well, your clear time wasn't that great on the video. I wasn't using, the equalizer is not an overpowered weapon. It's a reliable weapon, but it's not overpowered. So maybe if I had used a different weapon, then, you know, if I'd used the Vanquisher, obviously, and landed most of my shots, it would have been significantly easier, I suspect. Oh, I didn't mention the Talon. Yeah, what do I think about the Talon? It's okay. I don't like the rate of fire on it. But yeah, you can use the Talon. That's good too. But yeah, there you go. That's the build. For those of you who don't have the guy maxed out, you can keep all these, foregoing the passes in the bottom, forego most of overload, and forego the final evolution of invasion. You're still good to go. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. More guys in the future. I've been playing a what I call a weapons platform Sentinel, and her weapon damage bonuses are insane. So the highest, or tied for the highest in the game. So very, very nice, and I might be having a guide out on that in the future as well. Everyone, thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.